Okay guys, we are back with more Horus Heresy and more content from the new Saturnine box set. We have done a bunch of videos on the stuff inside of this box set already, but there's still a few bits and pieces outstanding that I would love to show you guys, and I'm trying to squeeze those videos in where I can. One of the ones I've been really looking forward to getting my kind of teeth into is the Saturnine Praetor. This is not so much a miniature as it is another dreadnought. It is colossal. It took me quite a bit longer to paint than I was expecting because of the sheer size of it, but I am very happy with the final result, and I'm going to share that process with you in today's video. Before I get into it, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active supporters, whether that be on Patreon, channel membership, or just you awesome guys here watching the videos, making sure that you're commenting, and all the people out there are subscribed. Why are you not subscribed if you're not subscribed? Subscribe right now. Anyway, if you want to continue doing that, that would be fantastic. If you do want to check out things like Patreon, channel membership down below, you get a bunch of benefits, access to a private Discord server, extra video every single week. There's a bunch of events and stuff as well, so it's a really cool place to be. So without further ado, let's dive in and get some work done on this Saturnine Terminator. Obviously, this is one of the most striking miniatures that come in the new Saturnine set. The other Praetor in the box is very beautiful, but it is a guy in like standard power armor. So when you see this guy in the Saturnine Terminator plate that's even bigger than standard Terminator plate, it's incredible. So I got the model as usual, sprayed black and then sprayed with some Wraithbone. And then I do go over the armor panels that I intend to make yellow with Wraithbone as well, with the brush, just to make sure I get a nice solid coat before I start any of the contrast stages of this painting. As you can see, he is chock-a-block with detail. There's actually so many options when you build this guy as to what parts you want to put on and what parts you want to leave off. You want the cape on, you want tassels, you want chains, you want all different types of weapons, hammer left and right hand. There's loads of choices, so if there's anything that isn't particularly covered in this video that you do get in the kit, I am sorry, but this is obviously the choice that I decided to make, the one that I thought would suit the Imperial Fist look the most, even though that big hammer is kind of Iron Warrensy, but we won't talk about that too much. So as you see, I go in with the Imperial Fist yellow contrast, and I very carefully paint that onto all of the armor plates that I need to be bright yellow. Choosing his giant Saturnine shoulder pauldrons to stay in the traditional black scheme, which is traditional if you're a dreadnought. That's how big he is, that they've given him the black shoulder pads that usually is worn by dreadnoughts. I will give you an example of him compared to a standard Marine at the very end of the video, so stick around and wait for that. And you can see what I mean, but it is genuinely quite crazy. Black Templar was then used for all of the black details on the model. Surprise, surprise. So that includes all the separation of armor panels. So like where knees bend, where arm joints move. Obviously a bunch of cabling and stuff like that. And of course, his huge shoulder pauldrons you want to do in black as well. Now, this side has the kind of ribbony color down it. So don't try your best not to hit that if you decide to use this plate. And the other side has a kind of a gold aquila motify bit, so it doesn't matter if you hit that with black at all, because we'll go over that with gold later on. But yeah, just do take your time and try and be careful with that, or else you're going to have to go layer by layer by layer over this later on to try and cover it up and pull it back to that kind of parchment look. And I do some really fun stuff with that kind of parchment on the shoulder pad and some transfers later on. I think it turns out really cool. Quite a bit of skill involved, I think, but you'll have to wait and see for that yourself. Blood Angel's red contrast was then used for the tabards, those like tassely bits coming down from the shoulder pad, his big beautiful cape. And I decided to carry it through to some other details as well. So the handle of the hammer, and then obviously the veteran status of an Imperial Fist is usually denoted by a red helmet. So we go with a red helmet for this guy as well. Once it's all in place, it does help break up the colors. A really nice balance, I think, of black, yellow and red right now. I'm really enjoying that. Some lead belch was then brought in for normal lead belchery details, silver stuff, some of the detailing on the hammer, power coils, some parts on his plasma, something or other that he has mounted on his golem. I don't actually know what kind of plasma gun it is. Maybe it's just a twin-link plasma pistol, or I don't actually know. I should have looked that up before the video. I have no idea what he's got in his wrist. But I do love a good bit of plasma. And then obviously other details, the big coils going up his shoulders and everything. You'll just take your time. If you need to, you can obviously go onto the Warhammer website, look up the Praetor, look at the 360, rotate that model around and have a look at all the different details that need to be silver on it. I find this to be an extremely useful tool when I'm painting these models to do that. And then of course we've gone for the shoulder trim in silver as well, which is obviously kind of very Terminator-esque for the Imperial Fists. Okay, from here we are going to move over to Skeleton Horde. And this is once again for those ribbony kind of details that exist on his chest and his shoulder pad. And if this model had like skulls or had any tassels or anything like that, you would probably use Skeleton Horde to get a base cut off for those as well. There isn't particularly that many of them on this model, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, like I said, all the tassels and stuff, get it done with Skeleton Horde. Starting to get all those base coats locked in now. Retributor Armor Gold was used for some of the shinier details. So some of the banding and stuff on his relic master crafted power hammer of doom. So you're going to make that stand out a little bit with some gold details. And then obviously he's a Praetor, so there's going to be gold details all over his armor. Big huge iron halo going up over his shoulders. The big Aquila across his cape. And obviously the one on his shoulder panel as well. So make sure you get all those bits and pieces in gold. And it really does help the model pop. So we pretty much have all the base coats in place now. There's very little left to do except for to shade the miniature down. So what we're going to do for this is we are going to grab ourselves the Marine Juice color, which is a kind of a mix of a bunch of different colors. I've covered it in another video. I think it was the original Terminator video. I talked about how I made it and where I got this recipe from. So if you want to go check that out, please do feel free. And this is just a great all-over armor shade for pretty much any Space Marine Legion. It shades everything down beautifully. It doesn't stain the flat panels. It just like, it basically has like a pin wash. It goes into all those like nice little settled recesses. And as you pull it away, it leaves very little behind. It's just really cool. It adds a lot of depth to the miniature. It's hard to describe what it does. It's literally magic juice for Space Marines. I'm very much enjoying using it for this project, and I can tell you now it's not going to be the only project I use this kind of formula on, because it does just work a treat, as you can see here. Got some texture paste on the base so he blends in with the rest of the army. Got that base finished up while I was waiting for everything to dry, and now it's time to start the layering process. So we jump back to Wraithbone now, and we're going to use this as the edge highlight for all of the yellow sections of the armor. So just take your time and just, like I said, with a thin pointed brush and a little bit of patience. It's not as hard as people think it is to add a little edge highlight to things. Just don't focus on the one individual edge highlight. A lot of people will like do the first brush stroke or an edge highlight. It won't be perfect. They'll get frustrated and be like, no, I clearly can't do this. If you just continue on with your dodgy job all the way through the model, by the time it's done, it looks incredible the whole way across. If you look at any amazing paint job that is edge highlighted, zoom in on any one edge highlight. They're not perfect. Your eye tricks you into thinking they're perfect when it's done across the whole model. So please don't panic. Just stick with it. Okay, time to work up the red. We're going to go for a very simple Mephiston red, Evil Sun Scarlet, Wild Rider red. You guys know that I love this kind of trifecta of colors, this triad of reds. I use it as much as humanly possible because the result is so nice. And with all the red detail that exists across this model, I'll be using it the whole way through. Jumping now to that second color. And it's very simple. The highlighting stage is literally going for the highest points, the sharpest details, or some of the more flatter areas, and leaving all the recesses the darker color. And then we jump up to each like new brighter color. We just do exactly the same step. We just go a little bit further in, a little bit sharper, leave a little bit further from the recess, a little bit more towards the top. And if you do that process with the three colors, you will end up with this really nicely layered and highlighted kind of bit of cloth. When you do get to the end with that Wild Rider red, you can go for very much just those really small scratchy highlights. Not even like crazy brush strokes. You're just trying to leave that last bit where the light is like pinging off those details. I'm making, so as you can see as I go in here with that brush, I'm very much not leaving a lot of paint behind. And I'm moving very fast along one edge of that tassel. Okay, time to layer up some of the metallic details, and for this we're going to jump back to our trusty lead belcher. We're basically going to edge highlight all of the silver detail, and we're going to throw a little scratchy highlight on all of the gold details as well. This will help those two colors kind of blend together a little bit better, and will also act as a really nice highlight for both colors. Even all of the black trim we did on the kind of like the lower legs and stuff like that, we're going to add a very quick silver highlight to those areas. Any of the mechanical bits in the back of the legs, just catch the edges and stuff like that. We want it to be that kind of blacky silver look, and this makes it really easy to do. More gassed bone was then brought in for the first of two highlights on all of those kind of, I keep wanting to say parchmenty bits. I don't know what to call it. Scroll work? What is it? What do you call that detail on the model? I don't know. I will be doing a Ushabti bone, a bit of detail on those bits as well. For some reason, I decided to jump in and do these bits instead. Now, these are one of the kind of more interesting bits I decided to do on the armor. These are just flat armor panels. Most of the time on the detail today, they do them in a metallic. You could do them in yellow as well. They're not really orbs or anything like that. They're just armor panels. But I just saw the opportunity to make them kind of energized orbs. And I think that plays into it a little bit because this guy obviously has the ability to deep strike into battle. And he also has the ability to take a unit of Terminators with him. Terminators can't by themselves deep strike and teleport into the battlefield, but this guy can pull a unit with him. So in order to do that, I'd imagine that his armor has a few kind of special systems in it to allow that to happen. And I thought if I did these kind of like 5 orbs on the front of his armor in like crazy esoteric kind of blue, I think it works. I think it's going to make it look really cool. It does add that extra bit of color to it, a little bit of pop. And that's my kind of reasoning and rationale for allowing myself to add more color to the model. That's not really supposed to be there. So I do the same kind of steps that I do when I'm doing like gemstones, except I go for a more kind of a scratchy highlight, more like energized, if you will. And I think it works a treat. Add those gloss varnish to it at the end. I don't think it detracts from the red or the yellow or the black or anything like that. Like I said, I think it just adds an extra little pop of color to the piece. From here, I do that last edge highlight on the last highlight, not edge highlight really, on all of those scroll work. Please, someone in the comments tell me what the hell this thing is actually supposed to be called. It's annoying me now. I keep saying the wrong thing. Basically prepping those areas for the addition of transfers. Now you see there's 4 lines going up there and a big nice line going across his chest. There's going to be 5 transfers that I'm going to use. The ones that I eventually decide to cut out, they're all taken from the Forge World one. And you can see these guys don't fit particularly well, especially that phalanx one that's across the chest that needs to kind of curve into a smiley face shape. But guess what? I did it because me and transfers get on really well and I'm awesome at them. And this is the awesome result of those transfers being applied. We have Oath of Stone, the number 7 for the Imperial Fists, Legion, and Phalanx across the chest. This guy's a defender of the Phalanx. Maybe that's where his entire company is based normally. I think it adds such a pop to this armor. I'm just really happy with how they turned out. And I'm really happy with how the model turned out as a whole. He is a big, hulking brute. I don't think I'm ever going to deploy him in a game that's like a normal game. This guy is going to be reserved for like boarding actions. He's going to teleport into the middle of the enemy fray, try and take the bridge or the engineerium or whatever. And lo and behold, any poor soul who stands down the other end of a corridor against this guy is going to have a very bad day. And like I promised, here's a picture of what he looks like next to a standard Marine to give you a real sense of scale. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one.